The movie opens in New York City with the introduction of several characters at once. The first one is a security guard named Mohammed, who is looking at a heartfelt homemade greeting card. Another one is a charismatic comedian named George, who is getting ready for an upcoming event while effortlessly practicing his jokes. Next is a poised television reporter named Maureen and her fiancée Dawn, who are currently having a private time in their lavish mansion. The other characters are a beautiful and pregnant woman named Celine, an elderly widow named Jane, an obese guy named Martin, and lastly, there is an esteemed businessman named Henry Barton and his spoiled 10-year-old granddaughter Madeline. All of them are on their way to a 52-story skyscraper, which is owned by none other than Henry. In the next scene, all the aforementioned characters arrive at Henry's skyscraper for an event happening on the building's uppermost floor. One after another, they all step into the same elevator after passing through security checks. George appears to be claustrophobic, so he asks the security guard not to overload the lift. Regardless, the security guard fills the elevator with all 9 people, which is the maximum limit. As the elevator ascends, George becomes restless. His focus remains fixed on the ascending floor numbers. Martin tries to comfort him, saying that he has been using the lift since 6 years ago, and it has never caused any problems. Quick, Dick, knock on wood. Oh, there's no wood? You're all boned. In order to intensify the situation for George, the mischievous Madeline presses the emergency stop button, causing the elevator to stop abruptly. As a result, George loses it and starts scolding the young girl. Henry steps in to defend his granddaughter, saying that it was an accident, but George knows that she did it on purpose. Fortunately, before the situation gets out of hand, Mohammed manages to calm everyone down. He then advises Henry to press the restart button, which he does. However, to everyone's surprise, the elevator does not move. Panicked, Henry presses the button for the lobby floor, resulting in a slight descent before another halt. At this point, George's claustrophobia escalates into full-blown panic, so he begins chastising Madeline using swear words. This enrages Henry, prompting him to fire George from his comedian role. However, this does not affect George, because he just wants to get out of this elevator. When the elevator does not move, Henry presses the intercom button and alerts security about it. After learning of the problem, the security says that he will dispatch a maintenance crew. As they wait for the assistance, the group starts to talk to each other, fostering a sense of connection amongst them. Henry says that he's about to retire from his position and live a peaceful life from now on. He just wants to find a capable successor as soon as possible. After a while, the pregnant lady Celine feels an urgent need to use the bathroom. Unable to hold on any longer, she decides to use her bag as an improvised toilet. The rest of the people turn away, while Martin generously uses his coat to ensure privacy. In the midst of this, Madeline takes a look and makes a rude remark, but her grandfather shuts her up. Gen Alpha will never learn respect, and the world will die. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. The conversation then shifts to Jane, who shares her heartbreaking story with everyone. She reveals that her son died in Iraq last year, and her husband committed the unthinkable after suffering a huge financial loss. He had actually bought some shares from Henry's company, but the value declined rapidly in a matter of weeks. Jane tearfully says that she and her husband had planned to buy a boat in order to enjoy their retirement days, but their dream was never fulfilled. She spills her rage on Henry, indirectly accusing him for her loss. In response, Henry says that life can be unfair sometimes, so it's best to live each day like it's the last. He then inquires why Jane is here now. Before she can answer his question, Jane suddenly begins to struggle for air, seemingly having a heart attack. She slowly collapses to the floor, and in her final breath, she reveals that she has a bomb, which explains that she is here to exact vengeance for her husband. The revelation sends everyone into a state of panic, and Martin immediately calls 911 and informs them about the ongoing situation. Not long after, Jane passes away, and Mohammed, who once worked as a medic, confirms her death. After this, the reporter Maureen starts filming and streaming the events using her phone. Henry, one more time, tries to contact the security via the elevator radio, but he is rudely told to have patience. Amidst all this, the trapped individuals engage in an argument about who should step forward to inspect Jane's body to check for the presence of a bomb. After arguing for a while, Celine volunteers for the task. At first, she cautiously checks Jane's bag, but finds nothing but a wallet, prompting all of them to breathe a sigh of relief. However, they do find a news clipping from her purse that contains the information about her husband's death case. Celine then proceeds to check Jane's body, and this time she finds something in her stomach. Upon unbuttoning the clothes, she discovers the bomb secured around her waist by means of a bike lock. The revelation frightens everyone, and they fall silent for a while. Meanwhile, the reporter Maureen, who has documented everything, transfers the footage to her television station. After being left without assistance for an extended period, the trapped group tries to find an alternative means of escape from the elevator. Don takes the initiative. He ascends to the ceiling and attempts to break through a panel in hopes of uncovering an escape hatch. But to their bad luck, he only finds the lights up there. After all the failed attempts, Celine lights up a cigarette in order to calm herself down, but Don stops her from smoking, citing the potential harm to her unborn child. Also, the bomb. Celine then reacts with a surge of anger, asking if he wants to be a responsible father now. This outburst catches Maureen's attention, and she suspects that her fiancé was having an affair with the woman. When she asks Don about it, he hesitantly reveals that he and Celine were indeed having an affair in the past. What's more, he also acknowledges the possibility of being the father of Celine's unborn child. This shocking confession leaves Maureen in a state of emotional turmoil. In the outside world, the video footage recorded by Maureen picks up the story, which is broadcast as breaking news all over the nation. The bomb maker, who is responsible for making the explosive device for Jane, also sees the broadcast, after which he looks very worried and guilty. Meanwhile, the trapped group opens the door in a forceful manner in order to check if there is any way out. Upon doing so, they see a small opening above, and Don attempts to climb out. However, his effort turns out to be futile, as the opening is too small. Following this, he uses Jane's cane and stretches his hand to the fullest in hopes of reaching the elevator button outside. He is about to reach the button, but at the same time, Madeline rapidly presses several buttons on the control panel from inside. As a consequence, the elevator's brakes disengage, sending the elevator plummeting several floors. The violent descent severs Don's arm, and the cabin goes completely dark. At this point, I say strap the bomb to Madeline and throw her through the little hole. Upon restoration of power, a gruesome sight becomes apparent. Don's arm is torn off, and Henry's forehead is cut with a deep wound. Also, it appears Madeline's head has disappeared up her own ass. Reacting swiftly, Mohammed employs a necktie as a makeshift tourniquet to slow down the blood loss from Don's severed arm. Elsewhere, the man who crafted the bomb is weighed down by guilt for endangering the lives of 8 people. So, he reaches out to media reporters in order to confess his wrong deeds. When asked by the press, he explains his motivations behind creating the bomb for Jane. He reveals a deep, personal connection, explaining that Jane's deceased son was a close friend of his, so he felt a sense of indebtedness towards their family. In addition, he discloses that the bomb contains highly lethal explosive components and estimates that it is set to detonate within the next 10 minutes. The trapped group watches this confession unfold on Martin's mobile phone and begins to lose hope of living. However, George suggests opening the door one more time, considering the possibility that the recent elevator's movement might have created an opening beyond the door. The group rallies behind his suggestion, and with united effort, they manage to pry the door open. However, to their dismay, they find no pathway behind it. George is still not ready to give up, so he contemplates opening the elevator again. He claims that there might be enough space for them to throw the bomb down the shaft, or perhaps Madeline, averting the potential catastrophe. However, the situation is not as easy as it looks, because the bomb is chained into Jane's body. George then asks if anyone has anything sharp, to which Mohammed hands him a tiny knife. Since the metal chain can't be cut, he suggests dismembering Jane's body and separating her from the bomb. Considering it as their last resort, everybody agrees. However, when it is time to act, George is unable to muster enough courage for such a grim task. Witnessing his hesitation, Henry steps forward, taking over the responsibility due to his past experience in animal butchery. After taking a deep breath, he begins cutting into Jane's body. As Henry proceeds, he reaches her abdominal region, but he needs some assistance in removing her organs. So, Mohammed and George help him with the bloody operation. When they are still unable to cut through her spine, they opt to snap it. The group then divides their forces and twists the body, pulling from opposite ends. In the midst of this, George considers Henry to be responsible for all of this, so he tells him to hand over $1 million to each of them if they survive. Surprisingly, Henry agrees. "Oh, damn," says George. "Make it 3. Just then, a security guard communicates communicates via the intercom, delivering the long-awaited news that the rescue and bomb squads have finally arrived. He assures them that the team will get all of them out soon. Within moments, the rescue team lowers the elevator and pries open the door, creating a narrow passage to extricate the trapped group. Then, they begin to pull everyone up, one after another. When only Martin is left, he knows that the opening is not big enough for him to fit through. George, on the other hand, desperately orders the rescue members to lower the elevator to another floor in order to rescue Martin. However, since only a few minutes are left on the clock, they reluctantly close the elevator door, leaving Martin stuck inside with Jane's corpse. The poor guy weeps uncontrollably, knowing his death is imminent. But in his final moments, he regains his composure and realizes he is the hero, as he helped everybody survive. With this realization, he waits for the inevitable, and the bomb detonates within a few seconds. In the aftermath of this tragic event, Dawn is urgently transported to the hospital, while George and Muhammad sit together, their expressions reflecting a mix of desolation and relief. As Henry passes by, George reminds him of the pledged $1 million for each survivor, but the latter brushes it off. George and Muhammad then share a brief conversation, contemplating the uncertain road of life ahead. Shortly after, a news reporter approaches George and questions him about how he managed to stay so brave during such an ordeal. George chooses to hide the truth, stating that he needed to stay composed for the well-being of everyone involved. Moments later, he receives a call from his wife, who has no idea about this entire incident. She reminded him to pick up groceries on his way home. George also does not disclose anything to her and simply agrees before walking away. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.